Nitro Gen Omega is a turn-based Mecha RPG that mixes strategy, crew management, and anime-style combat into one experience. The game takes heavy inspiration from classic Mecha series, throwing players into a world destroyed by machines where every decision can cost you and your team your resources or your entire mission. It tries to balance stylish cinematic battles with deep management systems while also pushing players to survive in a world that feels consistently hostile. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about it. The story of Nitro Gen Omega takes place in a future where humanity has already lost. After a powerful rogue AI destroys most of the world, people are forced to abandon the surface and live inside massive tower cities high above the planet. The surface below has become a deadly wasteland filled with machines, ruined cities, and remnant of human civilization. Players take control of a mercenary group known as the Fools, a crew that refuses to accept humanity's fear and is willing to return to the surface to fight back. Your team travels across the world inside a large ship that acts as both your transportation, your home base throughout the game. You take contracts, help survivors, salvage resources, and battle different machine forces that control the surface. As the story continues, the scale of the conflict becomes much bigger. What starts as a small missions for money and survival eventually turns into a large war against the machine empire responsible for pushing humanity to the edge of extinction. The story also leans heavily into mecha anime inspiration. You have dramatic character relationships, crew tension, rival pilots, emotional moments, and a big cinematic battles that feel like something straight out of a classic anime series. One thing I did like is that the crew actually feels important to the experience. The characters are not just random NPCs standing around your ship. Their relationships, stress levels, and moral all play a role in how they perform their missions. So when something bad happens to a character, it actually has weight to it. Overall, the story does a good job building its world and making the player feel like they are a part of a small group trying to survive against overwhelming odds. The overall presentation to Nitro Gen Omega is good, even if it does not always feel like a big AAA experience. Visually, the game has a strong anime-inspired style that reminds me of old-school Toonami-era shows from the late 90s and early 2000s. The character designs, mechs, and combat animations all have a lot of personality to them. The mechs look good during battles, especially when special attacks start happening. The camera angles, explosions, and effects gives fights a lot of energy. The environments also have a nice amount of detail. The surface world feels broken, empty, and dangerous, while the tower cities feel more controlled and isolated. There is a clear difference between the safe areas and the deadly world below. The sound design is also pretty solid. You hear the heavy movement of the mechs, the impact of the attacks, and the different machine sounds during combat. All of it helps sell that idea that these are massive war machines battling each other. The music changes depending on what is happening during combat. The soundtrack becomes more intense and action focused, while the quieter moments are on the airship. They actually have more relaxed and cool vibes to them. That balance that actually helps break up the pacing of the game. On Xbox Series X, the game runs at a smooth 60 frames per second most of the time, which helps keep the battles looking clean and responsive. However, there are moments where the visuals can feel a little bit too simple, especially outside of combat. Some of the menus, UI elements, and smaller environments do not have the same level of polish as the main battle scenes. Still, the game does a good job presenting its anime style and keeping the experience visually consistent. The gameplay is where Nitro Gen Omega really tries to separate itself from other mecha RPGs. Combat is built around a two-phase system. Pretty much during the first phase, you plan out your moves, attacks, positioning, and abilities using a timeline system, something like Final Fantasy 13. Then during the second phase, everything plays out in real time through fast-paced anime-style action sequences that makes every battle feel very cinematic. You are not just watching strategic turn-based combat. The game tries to make every attack look big, fast, and stylish at the same time. There is still a lot of strategy involved. Kind of reminds me of Final Fantasy 13 in a way. But you need to think about positioning, resource management, crew status, and the order of your actions before committing to a plan. Outside of combat, the airship management system plays a huge role in the experience. You are constantly managing your crew members, their relationships, their mental state, and their fatigue levels. If your crew becomes too stressed or exhausted, their performance in battle starts to drop. This adds survival elements to the game that makes every decision feel important. The game also features pre-made death. If a pilot dies, they are gone for good. You can repair or rebuild mechs, but losing a crew member is permanent. That creates a lot of tension during harder missions because you do not want to lose a character you have spent hours developing. There is also a good amount of customization. You can't modify mechs loadouts, change weapons, upgrade systems, and build your team around different playstyles. Some players may focus on aggressive damage builds, while others may prioritize defense, support, and long-range attacks. The open world structure also gives players freedom to take different contracts, explore new areas, and decide how they want to progress. But however, the game can sometimes feel very overwhelming. There are a lot of systems happening at once, and new players may struggle to understand everything early on. The biggest issue with Nitro Gen Omega is the economy system. Repairing mechs and buying equipment and keeping your crew alive requires a lot of resources, but many missions do not pay enough to keep up with the cost. This can lead to a lot of grinding just to stay operational. At times, it feels like you are spending more time trying to recover money than actually progressing the story. The game also has some very sharp difficulty spikes. Some missions become extremely hard very quickly, especially later in the game when enemy groups start to actually get more stronger. Late game battles can also drag on too long. Certain bosses actually have health pools, which turns some fights into long wars of attribution instead of fast strategic battles. The user interface is another problem. There are so many menus, systems, and overlapping options that actually have navigation everything that actually can sometimes feel confusing. Small text and crowded menus also make it harder to quickly understand important information. The game does not always explain the systems very well either. It throws a lot of information at the players through text pop-ups, but it does not always teach those systems in a clear or easy way. So a lot of players will end up learning through trials and error. There are also some technical issues. I experienced small performance drops, audio balancing issues, and occasional bugs during my time with this game. While none of these issues completely ruin the experience, they do add to the frustration at times. Nitro Gen Omega is a stylish and ambitious mecha RPG that successfully captures the feel of classic anime-inspired robot stories. The combat looks great, the world is interesting, and the crew management system adds real attention to every decision you made. However, the game is also held back by a punishing economy, confusing menus, long late game battles, and learning curves that actually may push some players away. If you are a big fan of strategy RPGs, mecha animes, and a deep management system, then there is definitely something here to enjoy. But if you are looking for a more simple or fast-paced experience, then this game may not be too demanding at times for you. For that, I give Nitro Gen Omega a 3 out of 5. Thank you for tuning into the best place for independent gaming journalism, and that's the gamer section. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay locked in for more reviews, interviews, and gaming content coming soon.